So many of you have been asking how I have been recovering from frozen shoulder, and I have some questions here from you. Miss M asked, how long did it take you to fully heal and regain your full range of motion? And how long it took to get better, and are you still struggling with this? So if you're curious about that and curious about the road to recovery and things that have changed with frozen shoulder, this video is for you. So the first video that a lot of you watched, I uploaded in early November of 2020, where I showed a lot of the things that I did to deal with the severe pain stage of frozen shoulder. And the thing that I did was I hired a personal trainer in January of 2021. I could have gone to physiotherapy, and I did start going to physiotherapy, but I found that by going to physiotherapy, I was relying on somebody outside of myself. And what was happening there was that they would hook me up to machines, they would walk away, there wasn't a lot of personal attention, and then I wasn't actually rehabbing my shoulder or learning how to look after myself. So I was relying on an external person to fix me rather than figuring out how to get a functional shoulder myself. So I realized that was going to keep me relying on somebody else and not figuring out how to have proper mobility, stability, strength of my shoulder movement myself. So I decided to hire a personal trainer. So I had tried hiring a personal trainer in the past, in the recent past, and that didn't go so well. Usually you get some time to have some assessment done, and you have like a free session, and all that trainer saw in me were my flaws, and she continued to point them out and how much she could fix me. It ended up leaving me in tears. So make sure you take that assessment. You'll find out how they work with you. And I think one of the things you want to look for is a trainer that can see your potential and can see how far you can go. At least for me, that was important for me. So that's just a little aside. So why I hired a personal trainer over a physiotherapist is because I wanted somebody who could show me how to have functional movement of my shoulder. I wanted high touch. I wanted somebody who was going to work with me one-on-one for an hour. So with a physio, you get these short appointments, they hook you up to a machine, and then they leave. And that isn't high touch. They're not really they show you a few exercises, mostly that you can do at home at the end of an appointment. Whereas with a personal trainer, they're with you, they're beside you, they're showing you, they're focusing on how to work, especially if you hire them for this, how to rehab your shoulder and how to have functional movement through the entire session. So when you're hiring a trainer, make sure you're hiring a highly educated trainer who is specializing in rehab. So my personal trainer has a bachelor's, a master's, and he started his PhD. So he's highly educated. There's different levels of certification, and just make sure you can get one who has a track record of rehabbing, who has as much education as possible, who isn't just gone for a weekend course in personal training, but who can actually take you to where you want to go. My trainer taught me how to do 3 things immediately. Let's talk about the journey now, how long it took. Immediately, he taught me how to do 3 things. He taught me how to stabilize my joint, the shoulder joint. He taught me how to mobilize my shoulder joint, and he taught me how to strengthen my shoulder joint. So, of course, when we first started, there wasn't a lot of mobility in the shoulder joint, but we started getting those small movements, and I learned how to stabilize my joint and how to strengthen my joint. And those 2 things were really key to the recovery. Okay, within 4 months, I started to get a lot of scapular range of motion back. Remember, I showed you my frozen shoulder on my right side, but I had it on my left side too. So I was really rehabbing functional movement on both shoulders. Okay, within 8 months, I had my overhead range of motion back. And then within a year to 8 months, I had enough external range of motion back that I could get a bar in the gym on my back, which was a huge milestone for me. Okay, it's now almost 4 years later, and I've got almost 85 to 90% of my external range of motion back. So I'd say that's really, really great. That's always the last to come back. It's the hardest to rehab, but 85 to 90% of that is back. Here's another question that I've received. This is from Evelina, but I've received a lot from many of you in different ways. Evelina says, please tell me how to not get defeated by the journey. I think our culture is filled with quick fixes. It's like you see these instant transformations all the time on social media and they're completely unrealistic. I feel like my transformation was fast, but in social media terms, because you see these instant quick fixes, it isn't. Also, the change was, it's like a permanent change. I've got functional shoulders now, which is huge. I'm working on my first pull-ups now. The other thing that I think about that we don't talk about a lot in the land of social media is this idea of impermanence. In the mediascape, we talk about this linear progress. You go from here to here, and that's it. But life really looks more like these spirals where you go up and back, up and back, up and back. And our bodies are always changing. It's not like we go from here to here. And so I've become a lot more comfortable with, okay, so today I'm having a better day, and maybe this day there's this little setback. Setbacks are just a normal part of having a human body. Some days my body is behaving more optimally, and other days my body is struggling more. It's always doing the best that it can. And I think when we adopt this kind of mindset of our body is always changing, things are impermanent, we're not on this linear line of progress, that this helps us not feel so defeated, to not buy into this idea of I'm going from here to here and then it's always going to be perfect, because there's not this destination, there's not this kind of endpoint of progress and perfection. So what's changed in the last 4 years? Well, one of the biggest things that's changed is the research on women in menopause and hormone replacement therapy. If I could have been on hormone replacement therapy, 4 years ago, that would have been such a blessing. So back when I first got frozen shoulder, the doctors used to look at me and say, this is just something that happens to women your age. And that was the extent of it. Now they know, there are enough studies that they know that there is a direct correlation between the estrogen drop that happens for women in the menopause, perimenopause years and frozen shoulder. So what studies have also shown is that women who are on hormone replacement therapy have way less of a chance of developing frozen shoulder. So here is what I wish. I've been outspoken about this. I am on hormone replacement therapy now. I take I'm on the estrogen patch, and then I also take progesterone to counterbalance that because I have a uterus. As soon as this is my experience, and you need to talk to your own doctor about this. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just sharing my own experience. But my own experience was, as soon as I went on the estrogen patch, my joints felt more juicy, more lubricated. They didn't feel so dry. They didn't feel so stiff. I don't know how that would have affected me having frozen shoulders in both shoulders. Would it have happened? Would it not have happened? We don't know. Hindsight is 2020. We don't know. We don't know if I'd been on hormone replacement therapy, if I would have had frozen shoulder, if I wouldn't have had frozen shoulder. But when I see women commenting on my videos, I always ask them, are you of the age where you're in perimenopause or menopause? Because I do know that the research bears out now that hormone replacement therapy can improve connective tissue health and reduce inflammation that has been shown to contribute to frozen shoulder. So if that is true for you, then I would strongly encourage you to speak to your medical doctor, especially a medical doctor who is up to date on frozen shoulder issues, and also seek out the medical doctors online that are up to date on the connection between frozen shoulder and hormone replacement therapy, because there are many of them that are very outspoken about it. And then you can go to your doctor armed with this information and be a great advocate for yourself, because we really don't have to suffer in the same way that we did even 5 years ago. We can get the support that we need, and maybe it doesn't have to be such a long road to recovery when we have the proper support.